I think the calculus is on Putin, and the calculus is on the leadership, and basically on the pain level he's willing to accept. And right now, I mean, you look at his military forces, which is underlies the administration for Putin. They've been decimated. I mean, sir, you know this. You know, when you look at his frontline units, they were mauled in the first year of the war. And he's taking tanks out of mothballs. He's taking tanks out of museums to bring into the front lines.
The horror show in Afghanistan, which is really the reason I think that Putin went in. He saw that horror show by Biden and his team of incompetent people. And that showed, I think it gave him a path in. I wasn't there any longer. I watched that and it was so horrible. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And now we're back. That's it. We're not going to have any of that crap happen, I can tell you.
Well, hello, that's me again. Today is October 1st, 2025. I believe it is Wednesday. I lost the count. I lost completely the temporal awareness. But, yeah, that's Mr. Kellogg in the beginning. And this is, well, pretty much what defines today American general. And I'm pretty much sure that you want me to comment on this whole thing in Quantico, which happened yesterday. And, well, the whole world is just basically scratching their heads, trying to understand what the hell they just witnessed. I am on record. Military and political elite in the United States is actively involved in humiliating own country. They do not humiliate themselves because they do not have understanding what humiliation is. But with Mr. Trump, this whole thing has become absolutely reaching the industrial scale. And what can I say? So, yeah, you saw this. Obviously, Mr. Trump conveying here General Patton, you know, and so, yeah, this is from the movie Patton, obviously, and you know what, obviously, George C. Scott is a genius actor. He got the Oscar for that, but, I mean, you know what, he's outstanding pretty much anywhere, and he is one of those old school Hollywood people. And yeah, as the result, basically there was this fake history about the George Patton, who was for some reason considered to be the genius within the US Army, but well, let me put it this way, Paul Fussell, who was himself a veteran and he fought in World War II, and he wrote a book about it, and he was obviously a literary critic, and he was calling, and he conveyed in his book, Paul Fussell's book, that basically the soldiers, even including of Patton's Third Army, called him the master of chicken shit. So, and for some reason, because of this movie, he became, I don't know, legendary figure. Some people say that he was the guy in the foundation of the tank or armor school in the US Army, which in itself, okay, whatever. So, but yeah, he was a mediocre general, to put it mildly. Actually, he was absolutely insignificant. And but yeah, for some reason he was elevated after this movie. And yes, this famous shot of George C. Scott as Patton standing, you know what, on the background of the, you know what, Stars and Stripes. And so Mr. Trump does the same. So people were thinking that it is pep talk. I mean, I don't know. It's totally ridiculous, and we'll talk about it in a second. But there are some thoughts, and believe me, they are not just only in the United States, and it has been conveyed by Colonel Daniel Davis and Larry Johnson and others. And yeah, that's the idea which comes to mind when looking at this circus. And as our good friend Larry Johnson correctly stated, that was Trump meeting with the U.S. military brass today, which was yesterday, a cover for action. And yeah, he talks about the spectacle, which is circus at the Quantico Marine Base, and so people say that he might have had person-to-person meeting with people from the commands, which will be conducting the strikes. People say call it war. It's not war. United States cannot fight war. But these are the standoff weapons strikes at Venezuela and Iran. Is it possible? Oh, absolutely it is possible. But the point is, why does he do it this way? He could have just called, smaller number of generals and admirals and talk to them, in some meeting in Quantico, in person, and what have you. But no, he gathered the whole top brass of the U.S. Armed Forces, and whatever it is, the preparation for the war. What war? United States cannot go and fight war in Ukraine, obviously, and it's not going to, because it's going to end up very badly for the United States as a whole. And so when we look at that, you have to give it I don't know how to explain this. And of course, while doing these pep talks, especially Mr. Hexet and Trump talking about how Mr. Putin is just losing everything, and so what can I say? He also dropped some bombs, if you wish, which are not really bombs, but he's talking about the fact that, first he proposed to return battleships. And even this type of the idiotic publications like Business Insider, they have to say that Trump floats the idea of bringing back battleships. US President Donald Trump said he's thinking about bringing back US Navy battleships, and battleships have heavy armor, gun-wielding ships that dominated naval fight for decades. Yeah, they did. And so everybody knows that he talks about aesthetics, and make no mistake, for example, Iowa-class battleships, they are gorgeous ships. They're just absolutely stunning. When you look at them, this is the pinnacle of the American naval engineering and naval architecture of the 1940s and the old Navy, so to speak. And yes, it was the time when the U.S. Navy was the mightiest Navy in the world by far, and obviously it featured these gorgeous, absolutely incredible ships, but they are white elephants in the modern era of the obviously missiles, and especially missiles with this is just absolutely ridiculous to think about that you can return those battleships in this form. And fact is, obviously Mr. Trump doesn't understand the first thing about navies, and so, but yeah, he loves aesthetics. Make no mistake, this is what I was talking about in the last video when I was talking about this 24-karat history, and the fact that he's very, prone to parade gold, what have you. And I'm not gonna go into the memes which now are floating all around internet with the golden toilet bowls and things of this nature. But yeah, it's really sad, let me put it this way. However, he does have a point, actually, and when we talk about it, and this is Business Insider again, that Trump went off about ugly stealth warship in his wandering chat with US generals and admirals. I have to agree with him. USS Zumwalt, apart from the fact that they are white elephants, absolutely not ready for any serious battle. They do look ugly. They are downright ugly ships, and poor Admiral, former Chief of Naval Operation Elmo Zumwalt, he would be, basically spinning in his grave just thinking about the fact that after his actually bright ideas about naval warfare, he had this white elephant, the whole class named after himself. And so, yeah, they talk about that US President Donald Trump once again shared his thoughts on the appearance of Navy vessels. Yeah, well, so Trump has repeatedly fixated on the aesthetics of naval vessels across both his administrations. And here we have to go and basically dispel any possibility of the appearing of those aliens from the Galaxy Quest, who, by watching those shows, as they call the historical documents, they just copied, those motions of this crew of the TV show headed by Tim Allen and, Sigourney Weaver and all other kinds of wonderful people, including, obviously, late Alan Rickman. And, yeah, they just studied hiding their emotions, which was the, skin thin, or skin thick, if you wish, and they just created this technology. But then again, they have been enormously advanced. There are no aliens like that, just looking at the aesthetics and following Trump's aesthetics and just creating him some super duper pooper weapons. United States doesn't have any. And that's when we talk about the fact that, for example, Zumwalt is ugly. Yes, it is ugly, but it is also, what does it carry? It carries the same set of the essentially 1980s technologies, which are primarily SM-6 and SM-3 of the air defense missiles. They wanted to do this thing with stealth. It's not really stealth. It's the horrible situation. And you know what, as Daniel Davis correctly stated, I hope that there was something substantial discussed behind this, humiliating show. And I don't know if they understand that they humiliate their own armed forces. We had this situation already with this so-called parade in Washington, D.C. It was laughed at all around the world. And I don't know, they continue to do this. And this has something to do with, obviously, people absolutely losing any kind of the competent approach to the matters of state. Trump is not a statesman. He is a showman. And he is New York real estate shyster. His level is this, kind of, deals in New York, real estate, whatever, which is very dirty, actually, and all kinds of the, bada bing, bada boom, all these mafia type approaches, in the sense that he parades himself as the, boss, godfather, if you wish. And this is what we have now. And his ideas about war and warfare, obviously, that of the not even amateur. There are some amateurs who actually work on themselves and they kind of get the ideas about things and they learn. He doesn't learn. And it's too late for him. Don't forget, he is an aging man. He is almost 80. I believe he is almost 80. So when you look at what is happening to him and what is happening with his statements, as Dmitry Orlov brilliantly pointed out, he's not result-oriented man. His result is to stay in the all kinds of this limelight, spotlight, and to attract attention on himself. He's a narcissist. This is what they do. But reality is the world doesn't stand, in one place. And while obviously Mr. Kellogg and Mr. Trump, have all those ideas that for some reason Russians are, just losing things. Well, we have Mr. Orban, who comes out and explains to them. And we know Mr. Orban is a sensible politician, and he has correct ideas. As you can see yourself, he states that Russia already won the war. He defies NATO and EU, and for him, his country is the most important thing, and that's how it's supposed to be. I like it is the case with Mr. Trump, who is completely controlled by Israel, and Mr. Netanyahu. But that's what is happening with the United States. It's humiliating, and it is all kind of, what coalesces itself into this wonderful picture, so to speak. Wonderful being, of course, a figure of speech that essentially we are losing the country in the sense that United States is not sovereign anymore. And what can I say? But if we continue with this on and on, whatever they decided, and of course, we have to understand that as Larry and others and Daniel Davis basically made the kind of, assumption, which is correct, very many people did it, that they might have been discussing the, let's say, strike to the at Iran. You can see yourself here that one of the deputies of the Iranian parliament, and actually the chair of the Security Committee, a few days ago, he speaks from Iran and he confirms it now officially that Iran is receiving very intensively S-400, HQ-11 air defense complexes, and MiG-29s. Many people say, oh yeah, those MiG-29s, they are old. Yes, MiG-29A, they are obsolete. They are just not modern aircraft. But there are all kinds of the other MiG-29s, like SAMs and all those iterations of SM-3 and things like that of this nature, which are being delivered to Iran, and Iran has already Su-35s. So, and while we talk about the fact that there are tankers flying back and forth from United Kingdom to whatever Middle East, and so Israel probably is preparing to unleash yet another war. But what can I say? I mean, yes, you can strike. Guess what? Immediately their response will fly at Israel, and this time it's going to be much worse than it was last time. And last time it was a devastation basically visited upon Israel. So Iran is getting ready. Russians are not idiots. They understand, obviously, and they can see what is going on. So it's like whatever they discuss there is one thing which I want you to remember, and I have been on record and writing about this non-stop now for second decade, is that United States lost the arms race. So, and when, as I already mentioned before, when they talk about the 12 weapons, United States needs 120 weapons, and actually quantity of those weapons to conduct any kind of the serious combined arms operation, which, of course, United States is incapable of. With people like Kellogg, Petraeus, or Donahue, or what have you, all those people, they portray themselves. They actually, as Mr. Trump for some reason misunderstands. Again, he is a real estate shaitan showman. He doesn't understand, as he states, that, oh my God, Ruskies saw that how we ran from Afghanistan and it was a disaster, and somehow, you know what, because of that, they think that we are weak. No. Russians do not think like this because of Afghanistan. Afghanistan was merely one of the indications of how the wars cannot be sustained by the United States. And I've been talking about it non-stop since, again, 2014. I'm sorry. So the United States was still, firmly embedded in Afghanistan at that time. But it was already stated there are all indications of the paper tiger in making. And guess what? So, and here we are. We have all those American generals and admirals and presidents and vice presidents running around making all those statements, not understanding that they humiliate their own country. But again, you need to have class, you need to have culture to at some point of time say, you know what, I had enough. I don't want to be part of it. But no, they believe it, some of them at least, and so even to the point that, they talk about that, let's kind of, get those Tomahawks. And again, this is the idea which was floated by J.D. Vance, and what can I say to you? Good Lord, it's even responsible craft and even statecraft. This Quincy Institute, we have Jennifer Kamanow, who correctly states that Russia are likely laughing off Trump's open door to Tomahawks. Yes, Russians are laughing off those open door to Tomahawks, and I stated already that, the idea that you would send this advanced, who said that Tomahawk is advanced? Evidently people do not even understand what they're talking about. But Jennifer Kamanow is correct here when she states that Russians laugh at it. So, and if the Trump administration is hoping that toying with this proposal to deliver Tomahawks to Ukraine, to furnish Ukraine with more advanced longer range, they have longer range, no doubt about it, will give it leverage over Russian President Vladimir Putin, it is mistaken. Ukraine does not have the ability to launch Tomahawk missiles, and US stocks of these weapons and their delivery systems are far too few and far too valuable for the Pentagon to agree to part with them. And that's essentially the procurement issue for the United States. Would the United States want to provide Tomahawks to Ukraine? Oh, absolutely. There are many U.S. military, let alone the U.S. political elite from Washington, D.C., who would like nothing more than to see the death of Russian civilians, children, women. That's what they do. This is how they understand war, which that is to say they don't understand it at all, as was the case with Patton, for example, who for some reason thought that he saw it. In reality, he didn't really see the real war. He wouldn't be able to command a platoon at the Eastern Front. But here we are. That's what is happening. And as the result, so suddenly we have the situation which is difficult even to measure. Everybody understands that United States is under control, foreign policy is under the control of Israel, and Israel is pushing Trump, who is basically the busboy for Netanyahu, to start something against Iran. Netanyahu himself, as is Israeli military, are incompetent militarily. They do not understand issues related to how you fight war, how you prosecute it properly. And so whenever we use the term war in relation to the United States, war is not what United States does well, and especially nowadays, of which I am on record for very many years now, which is the economically. United States doesn't have industrial base to sustain a real war, as does Russia, and that's why they are always caught by surprise, and they have to go around and continue to bloviate and purge hot air about how great the United States is. And that Mr. Trump again said about those 2 nuclear submarines sent to Russian shores. Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, everybody understands that Russians go towards the United States shores, US submarines, which are excellent subs, Virginia class, they go to Russian shores, so they patrol, they hang around there, and things of this nature. So it's normal, so to speak, operations of Navy, and it's their submarine forces. But of course, I don't know why Mr. Trump decided that Russia is somehow 25 years behind United States Navy in terms of submarines. But then again, can you imagine explaining to him how submarine development what is submarine development, and what are you going to do with the submarines, how you operate them? He has no clue. He heard about something, nuclear power submarines, but already in 1997, already U.S. Navy was worried of how Russian submarines were extremely quiet and extremely advanced. Today, I mean, even Virginia class, which Virginia class is excellent sub, I mean, make no mistake. I don't know how it is excellent related to, let's say, Yasin class submarines, but like Severodvinsk. But Severodvinsk is considered probably by the best submarine in the world today. And in terms of weapon suite, you know what? Virginia is nowhere near with the Yasin class, and especially when you consider what kind of weapons Yasin's the Severodvinsk class, as in Russian it's Yasin class carry. Virginia simply carries those good old Tomahawks, and has no supersonic or let alone hypersonic weapons. So, but and Yasin is extremely quiet. One of the quietest, if not the quietest submarine in the world, and other physical fields, but well, what do I know? Mr. Trump knows it all. So, and he was in the boarding school for boys, when he was young. So he should know it all. And as a result, we are left with the absolutely, stupefied. We are stupefied when you look at actually what was happening in Quantico. Meanwhile, Russians continue to lose the war, as you understand. I'm being facetious, of course, and we're going to, let's say, the tally of how Russians lose the war and how Mr. Kellogg, who wouldn't understand the first thing about warfare, he talks about. So, as you can see yourself, this is for the 30s. Yesterday, there is a definitely ramping up of the disposal of the personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine and all kinds of other volunteers and advisors. It's 1,600 a day. So, and if we go to our friends Marat Khairulin and Colonel Popov, then we can take a look at the, let's say, Oskol. And this is what is happening right now on the north of Donetsk. Look what happens. Suddenly we have Slavyansk appearing in the maps, and we have those serious, red arrows, which, as you can see yourself, if you take a look at the scale, which is critical when you deal with the issue of scales, it's 5,000 meters, it's just 5 kilometers. You can see yourself, Russians already are striking at Seversk, and there is the danger of the surrounding of all kinds of groupings at Liman, and then Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, agglomeration comes into play. And yeah, with here is more it's closer look at that, as you can see yourself. So yeah, Russians, as you can see yourself, they just don't move anywhere. Evidently this is what is being told to Trump, that Russians are not moving, but somehow they continue to liberate all kinds of things. This is another hamlet of Verbavoy, which was liberated today. And so movement is constant to the west. And that's why, well, essentially, I have to agree that when we speak about also Europe and how basically hysterical they are, when Doug McGregor and Daniel Davis, they spoke about it yesterday, that yeah, Europe no longer at peace with Russia. Well, we know that. I mean, Europe is at war with Russia. It's just that the fact is that anybody who thinks that somehow Europe could be at a real war with Russia, it just, you know what, it's impotent militarily. But look at this. They are, when you ask me, for example, why British elite, not English people are just, you know, fine lads. I mean, for the most part, those people just, I really sympathize with them and how they suffer from their own, you know, government. But look at this. They have this thing for Russians and for the Crimea for some reason. Well, I think it has everything to do with the humiliation. First, despite the fact that at some point of time they captured during Crimean War the southern part of Sevastopol after their 349-day siege, by the way, and obviously, you know, with the huge losses and suffering for the French British forces there. You can read about this in Crimean War by incredible, obviously, British historian Corelli Barnett, real historian. But then they have to remember, obviously, Yalta 1945, and as much as it was a triumph for the big three there, Winston Churchill was very envious of the position and relations between actually Stalin and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And essentially Yalta was both, while extolling the contribution of the British people and British Empire to the common victory, he understood that, you know, United Kingdom was departing the stage as their great power. And so they have this thing for Crimea, because it was all happening around Crimea, and now you have this guy. Oh, good Lord. So he's a knight, you know, he's, I don't know, knight of what, but as you can see yourself, this moron, he's former defense minister, and he talks about the Kiev Western backers must help make Crimea not inhabitable, so he wants to commit genocide. This is normal for British military because it's Lilliputian and they suffer from the complex of inferiority, and which obviously applies to the official London. So former UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace has said, speaking at the Warsaw Security Forum, so yeah, it's basically it's death cult basically there, but it's okay. On Tuesday, Wallace argued that Russia views the Black Sea Peninsula as a holy mount and that Ukraine should strike where it can inflict the greatest damage. Why don't Mr. Wallace order and, you know, basically try to convince official London to strike and see what's gonna happen? Yeah, but no, they're cowards, of course. They're going to be hiding behind Ukraine because they know that militarily they are insignificant and impotent. But we have to help Ukraine have the long-range capabilities to make Crimea unviable. We need to choke the life out of Crimea. Yeah, sure, yeah, why not? Don't you go and kill all those 1.9 million people who live there? That will suit basically the official London. That's what official London is good at. Fighting war? No. But terrorism, all kinds of genocide and things of this nature, well, that floats their boat. So, and it is not uninhabitable or not possible for it to function, he is calling for it. I think if we do that, Russian President Vladimir Putin will suddenly realize he's got something to lose. The guy is a cretin because, obviously, as you would to all defense secretaries of the United Kingdom. And if you take a look at his essentially background, yeah, I want to remind you who he is. Wallace was educated at Millfield, whatever, private school, yeah, blah, 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 those private schools, yeah. And so he actually attended the Young Officers Course for the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, and after leaving school was interviewed by a regular commission board. Okay, sure. He then spent some time as a ski instructor. Oh, absolutely. That adds a lot to your military skills at the Austrian National Ski School in the village, whatever. After training as a cadet at the Royal Military Academy in Sandhurst, and that's pretty much it. So he actually graduated with the 44 weeks of this fun and games thing with a minimal understanding of the modern tactics. And when you take a look at the level of those officers they produced from all this Mr. Radakin, Admiral, all the lawyers, all kinds of people, and whatever the courses they take there, it's not even serious. They don't have serious armed forces. But yet, for some reason, he has these genocidal ideas. He wants to make Crimea uninhabitable. So yeah, let United Kingdom officially get into the war with Russia. Well, then Wallace will not do such a thing because he's afraid of his own ass, his whatever family, property in London, because he knows what's gonna happen. He is an idiot, but he's not idiot completely, not to understand what's gonna happen. And the only thing which is left for those, grandiose people in London is to live vicariously through Ukrainian, criminals and terrorists. Here it is, in Berlin, no less. Berlin Zeitung is just absolutely shocked, that they have their, it's machine translation, and it is yesterday. Flyers call on Berliners to fight in Ukraine war. Look at this wonderful, wonderful thing that tells you that, calls you for take revenge. Pay back to Russians, and as you can see yourself, you have Wehrmacht people just, from the World War II, POWs, which Russians, basically Red Army, captured and marched them into those camps where they have been given proper, whatever Russians can spare them, but yeah, they were also working on the restoring of whatever they broke in the Soviet Union. So, and they say mysterious Ukraine posters. It is by Ukraine, and it's causing a stir. No, it shouldn't. If you take a look attentively at the official position of Berlin, Mr. Merz and all those German elites, most of them, they would love to take the revenge on Russians and kill them, destroy, so, because, as it turned out, Germany learned absolutely nothing from the World War II, and it is back to its natural own self, being existential enemy of Russia and Russian people. And so, anybody who from Berliner Zeitung or whatever the hell, all those German media or German politicians or military, they would love nothing more than to see Russians killed, Russian broken up. And so, it has been stated. And the people who continue to pretend that there's, nothing is happening, and actually Europeans do not want to, some Europeans don't want to see that, but many do. And Germans, they never recovered from the fact that it was the Red Army which actually basically destroyed Nazi war machine. Well, so there you go. Take revenge. That's what they want. And that's what Mr. Kellogg wants. But then again, as I already stated, there is not a single serious military officer in the US armed forces today who understands really the complexity and what was happening in the World War II. That is why Mr. Trump went and became the new George S. Patton, which, of course, in the larger scheme of things, is absolutely insignificant figure, militarily and historically. Just another show, just another Hollywood character. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee or two. So have the nice rest of the day today, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.